Hello guys, and welcome to another video of my channel. Today we are going to talk about CDK, which is one of AWS IAC solutions in addition to CloudFormation. We are going to initially talk about some basic CDK concepts, and then after that we are going to provision a very simple infrastructure using CDK so that we could see those concepts in action. I am also going to do another video where I am going to implement an entire infrastructure for an application that we are planning to use in production using CDK. So let's start by defining what is CDK. CDK is the framework for implementing your infrastructure as code. So it's an IAC technology and it allows us to provision infrastructure using popular programming languages that we are all so familiar with. Internally, it provisions infrastructure using CloudFormation. So it's basically a preprocessor for CloudFormation. It takes our code and synthesizes CloudFormation template out of that code. We're going to see that further in this presentation. CDK is comprised of two primary parts. One is the construct library, which allows us to define the resources that we want to use. And then it also has CLI utility, which allows us to interact with CDK and deploy and manage our infrastructure. So the question arises, why do we need CDK when we have CloudFormation? CloudFormation also allows you to manage your infrastructure using IAC. The primary reason is because CDK allows us to define infrastructure using popular programming languages that we are also familiar with, like JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, Java, .NET. So engineers don't need to learn a new language in order to use IAC. Also, with this, you get all the power that you get with programming languages. CloudFormation, for example, or Terraform, these are powerful technologies, but these are not programming languages. If you provision infrastructure using a programming language, you're getting all the power, the flexibility, and everything that these programming languages provide. Also, it allows you to keep your infrastructure code and application code in the same place. Last but not the least, CDK also provides higher level of abstractions for infrastructure resources. So while you do have the constructs that directly map to actual AWS services as in CloudFormation, but CDK also has high-level constructs that provide higher level of abstractions that allows us to provision infrastructure faster. So with a few lines of code, we could actually provision infrastructure for an entire application with CDK. Let's talk about the high-level flow when using CDK. So we're gonna provision our infrastructure using our programming language of our choice. And then after that, we're going to use a CDK CLI to process it, and it would synthesize that code into CloudFormation template. And then from there on, it's a standard CloudFormation service process where it takes the template and then creates AWS infrastructure resources out of the template. Now we're going to talk about some very basic concepts which are required in order for us to implement the simple infrastructure that we want to implement as part of this video. First thing is construct. Constructs are the basic building blocks of a CDK application, and they represent one or more CloudFormation resources depending on which level of construct you are using. Constructs have three levels. As I was mentioning earlier with CDK, your constructs provide higher level of abstraction. So you have level one, which maps to a CloudFormation resource. But then you also have level two and level three constructs which provide higher level of abstractions. So in this example, we are creating an S3 bucket And this thing that I have highlighted is the construct that we are using to create the S3 bucket. One or more constructs make up a CDK stack. During deployment, the CDK maps each CDK stack into a CloudFormation stack. So there's the one-to-one mapping between the CDK stack and the CloudFormation stacks. In this example, we are defining CDK stack, and within a stack, you have the S3 bucket. You can have multiple constructs within the stack. A CDK application is what holds everything together, and it represents your entire CDK application. CDK application is comprised of one or more stacks. So to sum up simply, you have a CDK application at the highest level that is comprised of one or more stacks. Each stack could be comprised of one or more constructs. Constructs eventually they map to the actual AWS infrastructure resources that get created. The way the CDK process works is it takes your code and it synthesizes CloudFormation templates. And then from there on, we use service to create infrastructure resources based on the templates. So before we start using CDK to provision infrastructure, I want to highlight the dependencies required for using CDK. I am not including the dependency installation part as part of this video, but I will list the steps required to install dependencies on an Ubuntu server somewhere in the comments or description section. In a nutshell, we need Node.js, NPM, TypeScript, because we would be using TypeScript to write code, the AWS CLI, and the CDK CLI. Okay, so now moving on to the actual work. First thing which we want to do is do CDK bootstrap. Bootstrapping is a one-time action required to allow CDK to do its job. It will provision some resources which CDK needs, like an S3 bucket, creation of a role, and anything else which CDK needs in order to do the deployments. To execute this command, you need to specify the AWS account ID and the region where you want the bootstrap to happen. Okay, the environment, I already ran bootstrap on this account, so it's not going to do anything. But when you run it for the first time, it provisions the resources that CDK requires. Next is we are going to initialize our app. So for that, first we are going to create the directory that is going to host our application source code. We are going to cd into the directory, and then we're going to run the cdk init command like this. Here, since we are going to use TypeScript for the language, we are specifying TypeScript. You can specify whatever language you want to use: Python, Java, .NET, Go. The app initialization completed successfully. And if we just see the contents of the directory, you are going to see, for example, the bin folder. And if you do an ls, there is one source file for the app. If you go to the app file, you will see that, as I mentioned in the earlier presentation, that the app holds everything together. So here we are creating the app instance, and then we are creating the stack and passing the app which this stack will belong to. And let's look at the stack as well. So the stack is going to be in the lib directory. Go to lib, open the file. Currently, it's a stack which doesn't contain any resources. Now we are going to build our project using npm run build. It's TypeScript, so it generated JS files from our TypeScript code. Okay. Next, we do CDK synthesize. Synthesize, as I mentioned earlier, synthesizes our CDK code into CloudFormation templates. So after synthesize command completes, it outputs the CloudFormation template on the terminal, and also it stores the CloudFormation template in this folder called cdk.out. It stores it in JSON format. After that, we are going to do the deployment. For that, we have the command called cdk deploy. Now remember, we don't have any resources as part of our stack, not yet. So let's go to our AWS account and see what we have so far. We know that this stack got created. So let's go and look at the stack in AWS. Okay, let's go to CloudFormation. CloudFormation, if you go to the CDK app stack, it's the same ARN. And if you go to resources, you're not going to see any resources yet for this. Okay, now we are going to go back into CDK code and create one resource actually, an S3 bucket. So let's go back in our source code for the stack. No, not JS, TypeScript. And let's create an S3 bucket here. And we need to import this construct as well for S3. All right. Before I build, I want to show one more thing, which is the ability to take a diff. So if you do CDK diff, it will tell which resources are we going to create or delete or modify. So here, since we added an S3 bucket, it's telling us that this with the plus sign, that this S3 bucket would get added. So now all we need to do is just do CDK deploy. CDK deploy actually takes care of running CDK synthesize, but it is mentioned in the documentation that it's a good practice to run CDK synthesize command. All right. So the deployment completed successfully. Let's go to our AWS console and see the resources. So if I refresh here, this should get completed. Yes, update completed. Now in the resources, you're also seeing the bucket. And this is the S3 bucket, which is empty right now. Next, I also want to show how things look when you delete a resource. So we are going to comment our bucket, and we are going to enable this SQSQ, which we just got by default from the CDK init command. When you run CDK diff, it will clearly show what is being deleted and what new resource is being added. So the bucket is being deleted and the queue is being added. So let's do deploy. Okay. So let's go to our console again and check what happened here. Refresh. Now you see the S3 bucket gone and the SQS queue is created here. All right. Last but not the least, we will destroy everything that we created as part of this demo. To destroy everything, there is a command called destroy, and then it will just delete all the resources that got created as part of this application. If we refresh, we can see the progress in the CloudFormation console. And if the destroy command got completed successfully, and we can also validate that by going to the CloudFormation console and seeing that the stack doesn't exist anymore. Okay, thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, then please hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions, comments, please feel free to leave them in the comments section. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video in our CDK series, where I would build a complete application that we are planning to use in production using CDK. Thank you.